Hey everybody, my name is Jen, the Caffeinated Crafter, and welcome back to my channel. This is a Flosstube Extra. I am going to be discussing my tentative plans for 2025. I say tentative because they may change. Okay, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking, not showing any whips, so I hope that what I say makes sense. I feel weird doing this and not showing whips, but I don't have my whips actually finalized yet. It is only October, so I got a couple months to figure that out. But we're going to talk about what I plan on doing so that you can change your plans to match mine. Okay. So bullet point list of what I'm going to do is Whip of Shame, Temperature Stitching, Great British Bake Off, Monopoly, Focus Pieces of my choosing. Okay. Whip of Shame. I forgot what order I said. Okay, Whip of Shame. So basically everything I'm kind of doing right now is going to carry over into 2025 with a few tweaks. So I'm going to tell you what I'm currently doing and if I'm going to make any changes to it for next year. Okay, Whip of Shame. I have about 15 projects that are over 10 years old because I've been stitching since the Jurassic period and I am that old. And so what I currently do is in the middle of the month, I pull 2 out of a basket. We talk about them. I show you the cover photos. I show you my starting points. We discuss what type of fabric they're stitched on, the subject of the pattern, and I let you guys take a couple weeks to vote on which one you want to see me stitch on for the following month. And at the last floss tube of the month, I announce who the winner is, and I do 100 stitches a day on it for that month, with a goal of like either 3,000 or 3,100 stitches, depending on how many days are in that month, or in February, 2,800 or 2,900. Well, 2,800 because leap year's over. I started doing that in May, and I really like it. I like seeing what you guys want to vote on, and I know you guys like voting on it too. So we're going to keep that going. I don't know if I'm going to have all of them in the basket. It depends on what I end up doing with Monopoly. We'll go over that later. There's Gracie girl. Gracie. Hi, baby. Hi. Mr. Whiskers is like walking away. I can't reach him. Mr. Whiskers, come here. Whiskers. Let's see if I can get him to come over here. So the Whip of Shame is going to continue, but like I said, I don't know if I'm going to have all 15 pieces in the basket because it depends on what I end up doing with Monopoly. We'll go over that when I get to that. So whatever I end up doing will affect how many Whips of Shame that we will see in the basket for next year. But yeah, that will continue in 2025. Okay, temperature stitching. What I'm doing right now is I have 10 whips assigned to the numbers 0 through 9. And right now they're all non-full coverage pieces. And every time their number comes up at in the temperature for the week, for the upcoming week. I was looking to see if I had any paper so I could write it down and give you an example. But every time their temperature pops up in the upcoming forecast, that whip assigned to that number gets 100 stitches. So for example, say I look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the highs are 84, 74, 76 for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, respectively, right? The whip assigned to number 4 will get 100 stitches for Monday, 100 stitches for Tuesday, for a total of 200 stitches. And then Wednesday was 76, so the whip assigned to number 6 would get 100 stitches. And then when they get worked on a total of 10 times, so for 1,000 stitches, they get switched with a different whip. And I pick the whip. I think about what I want to do and I pick it. And I really like doing that. That 100 stitches doesn't sound like a lot, but it really adds up. It really does. So what I think I'm going to change for temperature stitching for next year is I'm going to do the high and the low. That's what I started doing in September. I was doing the high and the low. But with everything I have going on right now, it was too much. So I had to drop down to only doing the highs. And sometimes I still struggle to stay caught up with it because I have so much going on right now. But I think I'm going to do the high and the low next year. And I'm going to have 2 different sets of whips. I'm going to have the high temperature whips and I'm going to have the low temperature whips. So if the high is 80 and the low is 70 for Monday, then the high temperature, the high whip assigned to 0 would get 100 and the low whip assigned to 0 would get 100. I'm also going to increase the replacement count from 1,000 to 2,000 stitches. And I can do, right now I'm doing non-full coverage pieces. I'm going to change that to it can be any whip. Doesn't matter. It can be a full coverage or non-full coverage. And currently I'm like, well, I don't want it to be in my current plans. I want it to be a whip I haven't worked on in a while. So it's basically going to be any whip is up to be contender for the temperature stitching. I'm also kind of debating on maybe when I get closer to replacing it, it would be a shorter time frame, but I think I might pull 2 pieces out, maybe have you guys vote on the replacement piece for the temperature pieces as well. I love seeing y'all vote on stuff. It's a lot of fun. So temperature stitching will have a high set and a low set of 0 through 9 whips, full coverage or non-full coverage. They can be in the Monopoly game. They can be something that's not in my current rotation. Doesn't matter. And 2,000 stitches before they get replaced. And I will probably have you guys help me decide by voting on, like, I will probably pick 2 that I really want to see worked on, and I will have you guys vote on which one of those 2 gets replaced in the temperature stitching. But that would probably only be like I show it and then we know by next video, you have like 1 week to vote on it. And then the next video, I'll let you know who the winner for that is. So that's my temperature stitching. This is going to be a short video, I think, until I get to Monopoly. I don't know how long it's going to take me to talk about Monopoly. All right. Next thing I said was Great British Bake Off. Okay, so this idea is from Jessie Marie over at Jessie Marie Does Stuff. She started stitching to Great British Bake Off. It's a cooking competition show that's set over in the UK. Shows on Netflix. I don't know what it plays on over there or anywhere. I know it's on Netflix. It might be Netflix everywhere. But the Great British Bake Off, absolutely love that show. And if you don't watch it, you really should. It's a cooking competition show without all the drama and a few dirty jokes thrown in here and there. It's quite amusing. I absolutely adore it. It's probably my favorite cooking competition show. So she explains a few different ways that you can stitch it. And she had like a non-monogamous way where you had whips assigned to contestants and stitch counts assigned to the events that happened in the show, like the set events, like a Hollywood handshake from Paul Hollywood first in technical, last in technical, and the star baker and the eliminated player. So she had one that was like a non-monogamous version where you had a whip assigned to each contestant and stitch counts assigned to each event. And then she had a monogamous version because she was also doing Big Brother, which Big Brother sounded fun, but I don't watch Big Brother. So I was like, well, I don't want to do that because I don't watch it. But then she came up with this and I was like, oh, I'm all in. But since she's doing Big Brother as well, she was like, well, I can't really be pulling out all these different whips and changing everything up all the time. So she came up with also a monogamous version where you had one whip assigned to the game itself and stitch counts assigned to each person. So I kind of, and then with the non-monogamous version, she had a formula to calculate in the technical bake, which is in the middle of the second part of the show. She had a formula to calculate stitch counts for the technical bake, for first in technical and last in technical. So I kind of took ideas from both of those and I combined them together. So right now what I'm doing is I have Honeymoon Sunset assigned as my main project for that show. And then I have cat hair just floating around. Okay. Honeymoon Sunset is my main project for that show. I have 2 whips right now that I have in my work on until it's finished rotation assigned to the technical bake. So what I did was I took the monogamous part of her rules, where you have stitch counts assigned randomly to the contestants. This season, they start off with 12 contestants, and so I have 100 through 1200, all those hundreds assigned randomly to the contestants. And so 100, 200, 300, 400, all the way down, right, to 1200. Whenever somebody gets a Hollywood handshake, they get eliminated or they get star baker, that person's stitch count, I put those stitches on Honeymoon Sunset. So say, let's just give examples. We'll say Bob, Susan, and Jillian. None of them are in this show. I'm just making names up. Say Bob has 200 stitches assigned to him. Susan has 300 stitches assigned to her, and Jillian has 400 stitches assigned to her. Sorry, my throat's dry. Bob, Susan, Jillian, 200, 300, 400. Say Bob gets a handshake. That would be 200 stitches on Honeymoon Sunset. Jillian gets eliminated. That would be 400 stitches on Honeymoon Sunset. And say Susan's gets Star Baker. That would be 300 stitches. So 900 stitches would go on Honeymoon Sunset that week. Sorry. I should have brought my drink in with me. For the technical bake, let's say, so for the technical bake, what she did was the formula she's using is N times 25 for the last in technical and N times 50 for first in technical. The N is for however many contestants are left like in the show. So the stitch count total will go down as the show progresses and more people get eliminated, because the very first episode would be 12 times 25 and 12 times 50. But when you get weeks in and people are getting eliminated and there's only say 5 contestants left, it would be 5 times 25 and 5 times 50. So we're going to say 10 contestants left in the show. There's 10 people doing the technical bake. This way I can math easier. I have one whip assigned to all of the contestants that have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 1200 stitches. And then my other work on till, so that's one work on till it's finished piece. It's assigned to the even numbers. The odd numbers, I understand they're all even because they're all even hundreds, but the odd ones are 100, 300, 500, 700, 900, and 1100. Another work on till it's finished piece is assigned to those people. So say Bob, who has 200, say he got first in technical. The work on till it's finished whip that's assigned to the even people, that one, and there's 10 contestants left, 10 times 50, that whip would get 500 stitches. And say Susan got last in technical, and she had 300 stitches assigned to her, the whip that's assigned to the odd numbers, that one would get 10 times 25, that one would get 250 stitches added to it. Now, say Bob and Jillian each got first and last in technical. Bob has 200, Jillian has 400. So that 250 and that 500 would combine together and both go on the whip that's assigned to the even people. Does that make sense? Clear as mud? So I am still deciding if I'm going to continue that format in the new year, or if I'm going to kind of go to the whip per contestant, like Jessie Marie had originally said. But I kind of like what I'm doing right now, so I think I might continue with the format that I'm currently doing, with Honeymoon Sunset, and then 2 pieces that just need to be finished off, and I will keep those, like Honeymoon Sunset, I'm like only 40-something%, 30-something% done. 40, I wish. I'm only 30-something% done. I want to get it to 45% by the end of next year, so that one is fine to stay how it is. And then the work on till it's finished pieces, they will stay, yeah, I'll keep it this way. They will stay as the technical stitches until they get done, and then I will replace them with another piece that is in my work on till it's finished pile, because I have 15 of them that are not whips of shame. They're just 15 pieces I want to get done. Gracie, she's being a pain in the butt. I'm trying to give her scritches, but she's being a pain. Ow, don't do that. So I think I'll keep that the way it is. And somebody asked me, well, what are you going to do when the season is over? The joy of streaming services. I enjoy watching old episodes of stuff. I'll just go back and watch old seasons of the show. That's all. Yeah, I'll just go back and watch old seasons of the show and put the players, like I already have the stitch counts listed out from when I assigned them to the current season. And so by all I got to do is change the names to that season's players or contestants, put them in alphabetical order, and there's a good mix right there. So I'll do that. Skip over Monopoly for just a minute. Focus pieces of my choice, basically, that's going to be anything that I want to keep out, like that is not in my current plan, and I want to keep out just to work on it when I feel like. Because there's a few pieces that I want to work on that I'm like, man, I really want to keep that out and work on it. So that's what I mean by focus pieces of my choice. It's just, if I want to keep something out and put extra stitches in on it, that's my prerogative, and that will be my focus piece. I might just keep it out all year. I might keep it out for a certain number of months. I don't know. But focus piece of my choice is basically anything I want to keep out to work on for as long as I feel like it. That's all. That gives me a little bit of leniency with my plans. Okay, Monopoly. I have a whole video explaining the Monopoly game a few videos ago. And I wanted to do this gigantic board that has like levels, and it has not just the railroads, but it's got like airports and subways and buses and cabs. And between like Yoshi is the one who directed me over to the Sloppy Stitching Sisters, and because they do Stitchopoly with their whips, and I watched what they were doing, and I was like, oh my god, that looks like so much fun. And me and him started talking about it, about how we could make it work for us, and then like, you know, him and me, not like together. And then I dragged Alara into it, and we all started like Googling insane and ultimate Monopoly boards, and all three of us like, oh my god, we want to do the really big ones. They both started making big Monopoly boards. I have yet to do that, but I also have been hit by 2 hurricanes in 2 weeks, and I just don't have the mental headspace to make a giant Monopoly board. I'm a little exhausted from getting hit by the outskirts of Hurricane Helene, and then 2 weeks later getting our asses kicked by Hurricane Milton. So this is why I waited to talk about Monopoly until the end, because while I was sitting here trying to figure out how I was going to make a giant Monopoly board, Yoshi had pointed out, because I was like, man, I gotta like get this card, like I gotta figure out how I'm gonna make this board, because I want a physical board to play on, and like not just put it on a computer and all this. And he was like, well, you know, you could just get like those project boards that you had been using earlier in the year and just draw the game board on that. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll do that. And then I saw somebody commented on one of my videos, and they said, well, what if you had, because I was like, you know, I want to do, right now I'm playing Monopoly with 4 players, 4 tokens: cat, dog, thimble, and car. And I had mentioned that I would like to do all 8 of the tokens next year, because I want to get more into the Monopoly. And they said, oh, hold on. Okay. Let me back up for just a minute if you haven't watched any of my stuff. So just a brief rundown of Monopoly right now. I have whips assigned to every property, every railroad, every utility, and all the special spaces. So go, free parking, in jail, and on jail, like just visiting. And then the luxury tax and income tax spaces, if you land on those stitches go towards the free parking piece. And so I have whips assigned to each property. And so right now I'm playing with 4 players, and each side of the board has stitch counts assigned to just the side, not specific whips, but just the side. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So I have 32 whips in Monopoly. And somebody has suggested, instead of, because I was talking about how it was like kind of stressing me out trying to figure out how to do a giant board so I can include more whips, and they said, well, what if you did all 8 players, but you had the board of whips, but a whole set of different whips for each player. So like, even if I just did the 4 tokens, the cat would have a full board set of whips assigned to it. The dog would have a different full set of whips assigned to it, etc., etc. So if I had 4 players, Baltic Avenue would have 4 different whips assigned to it based on who lands on what. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea, because then I don't have to worry about doing a giant board. But then I was thinking about it today, and I was like, well, what if the cat lands on Baltic? Does the cat stitch on the cat's assigned Baltic piece? And the dog stitch on the dog's assigned Baltic piece? What if the cat buys Baltic and the dog lands on it? Does the dog get to buy Baltic too? Because if I'm playing with 8 players, then each one is only going to have like a certain number of stitches on it, or a certain number of properties that it can buy. And what if the cat lands on Baltic and the dog owns Baltic? Which whip does the cat stitch on? So that's what my struggle is right now. So that's what I was saying earlier. I was like, I feel like my plans video is a little bit premature. I told y'all I was going to do one, so I'm doing it. But I feel like my plans video is a little premature because I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to work Monopoly next year. Because I want to include more whips in it somehow. And then I thought, when I was talking with Alara earlier, and then I thought, well, what if, like, me and her were kind of bouncing ideas back and forth, and I was like, well, what if I had teams assigned to, what if I had teams, okay, what if I had the players in teams of 2, like 4 teams of 2, so I had 2 tokens for each team. So like the cat and dog are a team, the thimble and the hat are a team. What are my other pieces? The rubber duck and the penguin. The 4 tokens that I am not playing with right now, they're in 2 teams of 2, right? And we'll just use the 4 I'm playing with because I can remember what they are. So say the thimble lands on States Avenue and buys States Avenue. And then if the thimble or the hat, say the car, say the thimble and the car are on a team together and the car lands on States Avenue, do I just do a reduced stitch count for the car's whip? Or do I do no stitching and kind of use it as a break? And then if the cat or the dog land on States Avenue, then they do their assigned whip of States Avenue, paying rent for being there. I could do that. Maybe I could do that. But then I was like, but what if they keep landing on their own properties? And then I won't have any whips for Monopoly. Say all 8 players land on properties that they or their teammate bought, and then I wouldn't have any whips for Monopoly. But that's where the focus pieces come in. Then I could put extra stitches on my focus pieces. So I don't know. I think maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll have 4 teams of 2, so I can play with 8 players. And I will work out better stitch counts for the Monopoly board itself, as opposed to side 1, side 2, side 3, side 4. Maybe I'll kind of tailor it to more reasonable stitch counts overall, instead of like, oh, because it's on this side, it gets like 50 stitches. Maybe I'll tailor it to more reasonable stitch counts overall, with a set stitch count for the railroads, just like it is in the game, where no matter which railroad you land on in the game, you pay $200 to buy it. as opposed to increasing prices as you go around the board. Because when I was working, I was trying to figure out, and so then I would have, I think I'll do that. See, this is why I wanted to talk about it. So I think I have my Monopoly figured out now. Okay. Ignore everything I said. Okay, ignore everything I was saying. Okay, this is what I'm going to do for Monopoly. I'm going to have all 8 tokens. Each token is going to have the board's equivalent of whips assigned to it. My current game has 32 whips, 22 properties, go, so 22 properties, go, free parking, in jail, just visiting, no, in jail, on jail, just visiting, free parking, railroads, maybe it's 33 properties, utilities, 31 properties. Anyway, it might be 31 properties. Go, free parking, in jail, on jail, 2 utilities, 4 railroads. Is it 22 properties? Anyway. Full set of whips for every player. I'm going to have all 8 players. They're going to be divided into teams of 2, teams of 3. No, there's 8 players. Teams of 2, so it can be divided up evenly. Because it's either going to be 2 teams of 4 or 4 teams of 2, because there's 8 tokens. So we're going to do 4 teams of 2. We'll pair them up randomly, and they're going to go around the board. I'm going to adjust the stitch counts. Have not worked that part out yet because I just came up with this. We're going to adjust the stitch count so it's a little bit more balanced, and my railroads will have a set stitch count as opposed to just increasing, because right now side 1 is 100, side 2 is 200, side 3 is 300, side 4 is 400 to purchase, no matter what property you're on. So I'm going to adjust the stitch count so it's a little bit more balanced, and assign and figure out the rent properties. So say the cat and dog are one team and the car and the thimble are another team. Yes, that's what we're going to do. Say the thimble lands on States Avenue and purchases States Avenue. I'm going to have two different rent counts. I'm going to have one rent count, that way I'm not just not stitching on stuff. I'm going to have one rent count for if you own the property, if your team owns the property, and a different rent count if your team does not own the property. So say the thimble buys States Avenue and the thimble and the car are a team, and the car lands on States Avenue. The car's whip that's assigned to States Avenue will get the reduced rent amount. Friends and family discount. If the cat lands on States Avenue, then the cat's assigned States Avenue whip will get the higher rent amount to stitch. That's what we'll do. And then the specialty stuff will not, railroad, and the same thing will apply to the railroads and utilities properties. And then, but go, free parking, in jail, on jail, that'll be the same across the board. That's what I'll do. And I'm going to add more to the chance and community chest cards, I think, because I think Yoshi had talked about doing chance and community chest, or maybe it was Alara, and their cards, like in the game, you know how you like pay money to the bank, and depending on your house rules, that money can go to free parking. I think I'll make some additional cards and do that. And that bank money will actually go towards the stitches will go towards free parking. I'll have stitch 100 stitches on a random whip and then add X number of stitches to free parking. So I am going to redo the Chance and Community chest cards, and the whips for my Monopoly pieces, they will be both current whips and new starts, and full coverage and non-full coverage, doesn't matter what type it is. And I'm still going to do my stitch count goals. So if a whip hits 5,000 stitches on a non-full coverage, it will get replaced in Monopoly. And if a whip hits, that obviously is going to take a long time. We'll say 5,000. No, let's say a non-full coverage hits 2,000 stitches, it gets replaced. And if a full coverage hits 4,000 stitches, it gets replaced. That one I will pick. No voting on that. I pick that. I have over, if you don't know, if you're hearing me talk about all these, you're gonna be like, what in the world? I have 300 plus projects in various stages. Some I have a lot of projects that are going to be new starts, and I have a lot of projects that are current whips. 300 plus projects. And I want to work on all of them again. I'm at the point now where I want to work on everything again. So I'm liking that. I think we'll do that. Did I confuse anybody? I feel like I did. Okay, so recap. Whip of Shame. Oh, so hold on, back to Monopoly for a minute. So for my 8 players, the landing in jail piece is going to be a Whip of Shame. I don't know which ones. I haven't assigned the properties to the players yet, or the whips to the players yet, but the Whip of Shame pieces, there's going to be 8 of them that are going to be assigned to the Monopoly jail, in landing in jail spot. And if you've been watching my channel, you know how much I just love the piece that I'm working on that's landed in jail, and it's gotten like close to 1,000 stitches already. So so I will have 8 Whips of Shame, all in the jail spots for my Monopoly game. The ones that are not in the jail spots, those will be in the basket to be pulled to be the Whip of Shame for the following month. Will I replace those jail pieces? Probably. But then they become contenders for the Whip of Shame. So those pieces I gotta play by ear. Those pieces I gotta play by ear. I'm not 100% certain if I'm going to replace them with a different whip of, like maybe switch them out for a different Whip of Shame when they hit 2,000 stitches. Because if I do 2,000 stitches on a whole lot of latte and then it gets replaced with something else and then it gets voted on to be the Whip of Shame, I'm blocking you guys. I'm just going to do this by myself. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe I'll do that. Okay. So the Whip of Shame, as of right now, will be actually 7 different pieces that will get pulled 2 every month to vote on for 100 stitches a month. 100 stitches a day for a month. Okay. temperature stitching, we're going to have a high set and a low set, 0 through 9, 1 whip per number. The high numbers for the upcoming week and the low numbers for the upcoming week. The second digit is what I'm going by, and those pieces get 100 stitches every time their number pops up in the temperature that week. When they hit 2,000 stitches, they get replaced, and I will have you guys vote when I see that we're getting close to the 2,000. I will pull out 2 pieces that I really would like to see in the temperature stitching, and you will vote between those 2 pieces, and you'll have 1 week to do that. Whip a Shame, you have 2 weeks to vote. Great British Bake Off, I'm going to stick with Honeymoon Sunset as the main project for Great British Bake Off, with the random stitch counts assigned to the player, to the contestants, and and 2 work on till it's finished pieces, and those will stay as my technical pieces until 1 gets finished, and then I will replace it with another piece that will be a work on till it's finished. And then Monopoly, I will have a full board of whips assigned to each token. They'll be in teams of 2, so 4 teams. If they land on a property that is owned by themselves or their teammate, they will have a reduced number of stitches to work on for that piece assigned to that property. If they land on an opponent's piece, then they will have a higher number of whips or stitches to work on for the whip assigned to that property. But each one will have a unique set of whips. And in Monopoly, any non-full coverage that hits 2,000 stitches will get replaced with something new. And my full coverage pieces, because those will now be included in Monopoly next year, any full coverage pieces that hit 4,000 stitches will get replaced with a different whip. And it doesn't need to be full coverage for full coverage or non-full coverage for not full coverage. If I say I'm working on Hiding Place for, Oriental Avenue for the dog, and it hits 4,000 stitches, I could replace it with Summer Sampler. So I could have a full coverage whip and then replace it with a non-full coverage, and vice versa. You guys can still play along at home with the Monopoly. You can still pick a token. You can play with a full set of whips. You can play with a whip assigned to each side of the board. You can play, like if you only have 1 whip, you can pick a token, and however many stitches that particular token has to stitch, those are the stitches you put in on that whip. I know someone is doing 1 whip per side of the board, so they have, and then I think they have 1 per side, and then 1 for the specialty squares. So they have 5 total. I think somebody else mentioned that they have a whip assigned to each color. So they have 1 whip assigned to the browns, 1 whip assigned to the light blues, 1 to the purples, etc., etc. So you can formulate it however you'd like to play along at home. I'll do all the work. I'll play the round, and I've been putting in the description box. Once I knew that people were playing along, I've been putting in the description box what the results are for the round of Monopoly. So I'm listing out the player, where they landed, how many stitches they have to do, and then say they get doubles or they pass. I think one of my pieces last week, it rolled doubles and it passed go and landed on a property. So it had stitches to stitch on for the go spot, and then it had stitches for the spot it landed on, and then it had to roll again because it got doubles. So then it had a third project that it landed on. So, so I'll have, you know, where it landed, how many stitches each landing spot gets, and then the total stitch count for each player. And I'll also have what side it's on, so that if you have whips assigned by side, but you don't remember what color, like say I was like, oh, it landed on Virginia and it's a purple, and you don't remember where the purple is, I'll say it's on side 2. And that'll all be in the description box. So I think that's what I'll do. All right, there are my plans. I'm going to work on, over the next month, I'm going to work on divvying all my whips out amongst the Monopoly game and amongst the temperature stitching. And we will see what I come up with. Because like I said, I'll do new starts and current whips to Monopoly. Maybe I'll even do temperature with new starts if I see one that I'm like, oh, I really want to work on that. Yeah, so I hope that wasn't too confusing. And I feel bad I don't have any whips to show, but yeah. Oh, well, I'll show one whip because I have it sitting right here. So this, for example, this is my current, one of my whips for the technical stitches for Great British Bake Off. A little sneaky peek. I am not done with the stitches yet, but this one, I don't remember if it was evens or odds. I think it was evens. The first and last in technical, those contestants had an even stitch count assigned to them. So this piece got both of the this piece got first and last technical stitches. I still have to put 200 stitches in it. I'm not showing a before picture because I'm just going to upload this puppy. So I don't have a before picture. You'll see it when I do my update. But look how much I've added. I've added, when I pulled this out to say, oh, this is what I'm gonna stitch on, I have added, I had the word chapter already, and I had this already. I have added all the black stitching here. I had the M started, so I finished the M, I did the O, I got the clock outlined, I started filling in. I've got the outline of the books right here, and I started filling in this book. I did the outline of this book right here. I still have 200 more stitches to put, 225 more stitches to put in on it before you guys see this again. But that's the progress I have so far, and that's just the technical stitching for Great British Bake Off. So, yeah. Fun. Okay, I showed a whip. I feel better. Okay. But if you guys have any questions about the plans, like I said, once I have all my whips assigned to everything, I'm going to do another video later on this year because you guys like to see what I'm going to be working on. And then I also have to do a whip parade. So maybe I'll try to get my whips assigned ASAP. So maybe I can do the whip plans in 2025 for 2025 in the month of like maybe November. That way I don't feel like I'm showing the same thing over and over by doing that, and then also doing a whip parade at the end of the year, because I'm going to have a lot of whips to show at my whip parade. I'm not going to show any pieces I hadn't started this year, but I am going to be showing everything that I've worked on and everything that is a whip that's already been started, but I haven't worked on it yet this year. I will be showing all of that at the end of the year. So it's going to be another long whip parade. Not as long as last year's, but it's going to be a long whip parade, because last year I showed both my whips and my potential new starts. This year I'm going to only show stuff that has already been started. So yeah, maybe I'll try to get a assigned whips assigned projects video out in November showing what has been assigned to all of the temperatures and the Monopoly game. We'll do that. Yeah. All right. Again, I hope that wasn't too confusing. But if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section down below. And yeah, so take care, happy stitching, get a lot of stitches in, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.